I am pumped for 125 pounds next year. The 25-26 season is just around the corner. In this video, we're going to talk about who's graduated, who's back, who's transferred, who are the sleepers, who are the title contenders, and everything in between for 125 pounds. Always one of the most topical weights to discuss. As we look at last year, okay, what happened a year ago? Well, you had Vince Robinson from NC State taking out Troy Spratley, Oklahoma State in the NCAA Finals. Penn State's Luke Lillidahl finishing in third place. Who has left this weight class? All right, a few big contenders from a year ago, but ultimately this weight is pretty much intact from a year ago. You lose Matt Ramos, who finished fourth. He was a past NCAA finalist, someone who a year ago many thought was going to win a national title. And going into the Big Ten tournament, that looked like a likelihood until he fell to Luke Lillidahl and suffered two losses at the NCAA tournament. It also loses Richard Figueroa, who did not graduate, but he's moving up to 133 pounds after transferring to Oklahoma State. And then you have Nebraska's Caleb Smith gone for graduation. He was an All-American as well a year ago. So now, who's back? Well, pretty much everyone else. You've got the top three with Vince Robinson, Troy, and Luke Lillidahl, and you have a number of other contenders. One thing I want to mention about this weight class, you're like, well, what is this weight going to be like? Is it going to be dominated by these top three guys? I don't think so. I think we're going to see a year similar to a year ago, where if you look at these top three finishers, Vince Robinson, he had multiple losses to Eddie Ventresca. Troy Spratley lost to Jet Strickenberger. He also lost to Matt Ramos a year ago. And then you had Luke Lillidahl. He fell to Dean Peterson and Sheldon Seymour last year. So all of these guys, where they were really good and they finished their seasons very, very strong, they all took losses, right, along the way to guys outside that top three group. So now how big is that contender list? I think it's pretty big. But before we get into the title contenders, let's get into who's new, who is re-entering this weight class or entering it for the first time. Stanford's Nico Provo. He was out last year, did not wrestle for Stanford, and now he is back. And this is someone who, after winning Cliff Keen Las Vegas in 2023, rose to the #1 spot. He was ranked #1 in America for a time. And then he missed last year, and so now he's back. A lot of excitement around Nico Provo. Seen him on the freestyle mat. He looked really good. So what can that mean for a Stanford team that people are very excited about? Can't wait to see what he can do. Don't be surprised if he's contending for a podium spot. Who else is new? Jory Volk, back from injury, and also has transferred from Wyoming to Minnesota. Volk's has a ton of freestyle accolades, some great wins in folk style as well, beating Richard Figueroa, beating a number of other really good guys. Greg Diakomahalis, a name we haven't talked about much, but a familiar last name, the brother of Yanni Diakomahalis. Been in and out of the lineup for Cornell. Looks to be the man at 125 for the Big Red. He's got some nice wins. He's beaten Diego Sotelo, Vinny Kilkiri, Kyson Terrakina, among others. Greg Diakomahalis, a pretty solid newcomer into this weight class. A lot of transfers in this weight class as well. Some of the big movers who have changed their teams. One, Steve Opulin, transfer from Northern Colorado to Iowa State. Great pickup for the Cyclones, who are very active in the portal this offseason. Dean Peterson transfers within the Big Ten from Rutgers to Iowa. Iowa always does a great job with the lightweights, and Dean Peterson, definitely a stud with 1 year of remaining eligibility for the Hawks. Spencer Moore from UNC to Illinois. Kyson Terrakina from Iowa State to North Carolina. And then, of course, I already mentioned Jory Volk from Wyoming to Minnesota. Some pretty big pickups from around the country. What am I going to get into next? Let's talk about some of the sleepers. I already talked about Nico Provo. He's kind of a sleeper. You know, some of these guys are sleepers to place. I feel like Provo is one of those guys on the short list. Maybe this is someone that could be wrestling in the NCAA Finals, right? Troy Spratley, this is a guy that lost at Big 12s to Jet Strickenberger. He wasn't on the short list to make the NCAA Finals. He did it. Vincent Robinson, this guy was a super duck away, a duck under away from losing early to Mark Anthony McGowan, right? So could someone like Nico Provo enter that conversation? Absolutely. Dean Peterson, can he take a step forward? We saw what he can do. He's beaten some big guys. He beat Luke Lillidahl. He's beaten Richard Figueroa. He's beaten high caliber guys. He's got to put a tournament together. right? That's something that's eluded Dean Peterson right now. Can he find that consistency and the ability to put 5 matches together at Iowa? You can't rule him out. The guy can clearly wrestle at a high level. Putting it together could put him in the NCAA finals in his final year of eligibility. So he is definitely a sleeper to make a final. Jory Volk, I feel similarly. He's someone that you could see taking a step forward. He's kind of in that class a year ago, right? He's beaten some really good guys. Can he take a step forward at Minnesota? That seems possible, although Wyoming clearly did a great job with Jory as well. Mark Anthony McGowan, this is someone we did not talk about much last year. He was a big recruit coming out of Blair, then was kind of off the grid. We didn't see or hear from him for a while. And then at the NCAA tournament, he had some really nice moments, and he had Vince Robinson dead to rights. It looked like he was about to win this match. Gives up a stall call and a late takedown, and Vince Robinson not only wins that match, goes on to win a national title. That's what's so fun about this weight class is it's all on a razor's edge. Anyone can beat anyone, and putting together 5 straight matches is really tough because you hit contenders that can knock you off so early in a weight class with the depth like 125 pounds has. Maximo Renneria, this is kind of an all-American type of sleeper. I like his pedigree. I like his talent. It's good offense, good defense. Consistency has been an issue for Maximo. If he can start putting it together, I think he can have a nice season next year for the Oregon State Beavers. Trevor Anderson for Northern Iowa. UNI does a great job in development. This is not a top recruit coming out of high school, but someone who's gotten better and better as he's had more time at Cedar Falls with Coach Schwab and company. Wins over Richard Figueroa, Caleb Smith, Tanner Jordan, Cooper Flynn, Kyson Tarakina. That is quite a hit list for Trevor Anderson. Right now, he's ranked 11th. Certainly someone you could see entering the All-American ranks. Who else do I have on my list? Jet Strickenberger. If you're looking for I think it's very obvious Jet can place. He's been right there. He's beaten multiple All-Americans, including Troy Spratley. But this is another guy who on a different day, different circumstances, different draw, maybe he's someone wrestling in the NCAA finals. Very, very high on Jet Strickenberger. If his weight's under control, this guy can wrestle with absolutely anyone. He's huge for the weight, really good scrambler, great from the top position. Don't count out Jet Strickenberger. This is a weight rife with All-American and title contenders. Very, very deep weight class. Mark Anthony McGowan, he's currently ranked 18th in the country. Sotelo coming in for transferring from Harvard to Michigan. He's someone with wins over Jory Volk. He's beaten Anthony Noto. Consistency been an issue. Can he find that in Michigan? It seems possible. It seems like a good landing spot for someone of Sotelo's pedigree. I like someone going that's shown they've got a high watermark, like they can beat really good guys. I think you go to a premier program like Michigan, like Dean Peterson with Iowa, you can maybe find that consistency. Who are the title contenders, though, ultimately? I feel like this was one you can cast a pretty wide net for. Obviously, Vince Robinson. He's the returning national champion. Obviously, Troy Spratley. This guy's made an NCAA final. Obviously, Luke Liljedahl. I think he is actually the odds-on favorite to win this weight class. If Vegas was into wrestling, like they are college football, I think Luke Liljedahl would be the favorite to win this weight class. But he is a slightly different wrestler, folk style versus freestyle. He's a top 5 guy in the world at 57 kilograms internationally in freestyle. Folk style, I think he's maybe the number 1 guy. I think he's maybe even the guy to beat. But until he proves it, until he puts it together, that remains to be seen. And, I haven't said the name Sheldon Seymour. Sheldon Seymour is who knocked off Luke Liljedahl in a match where neither guy could get a takedown on one another, and it ends up in tiebreakers, crazy competitive 30-second periods. Luke wasn't able to get away in time, and ultimately Sheldon Seymour was a winner in a takedownless match. So Luke Liljedahl is going to have to get better if he wants to win a national title this year. But he was good enough to win a year ago, and it would stand to reason after a true freshman year, he's going to take some steps forward. But don't forget, Vince Robinson was also a freshman last year. Troy Spratley was a sophomore. This is a very, very young weight class in terms of the premier talent. These guys aren't going anywhere. And that's what makes me excited about this weight class. It's basically going to be a lot of the same guys, but they're all going to be a year better, right? And so that gets me fired up for this weight. You got Eddie Ventresca. He had multiple wins over Vince Robinson, and that's a conference rivalry. They're in the ACC. They're going to wrestle in the dual meet. They're going to wrestle maybe earlier in the season, of course, and they could wrestle the conference tournament and maybe even NCAAs. So a lot to be excited for at this weight class. I'm trying to think of any names I may have missed. As far as what's my final list of title contenders, I'm saying Robinson, Spratley, Luke Lillidahl, Eddie Ventresca, Jory Volk. There's some other guys I mentioned as maybe national champion sleepers, but that's my short list right now. I try to keep that list kind of short because if you include everyone, you didn't really tell anyone anything. So that's how I view this weight class. I think it's an awesome weight. We're going to be talking about this. I feel like the last couple of years, 125, since Spencer's graduated, we've been like anyone can win this weight. And I think this is another scenario where 125 is a wide open weight class. There's a lot of guys that can win it. A lot of talent and a lot of excitement, especially, all the premier power programs have a guy here. Penn State's got Luke. Iowa's got Dean Peterson. Oklahoma State's got Troy Spratley. Iowa State now has Steve O'Poulin. So very exciting weight class. Can't wait to see how it plays out. But I want to know, who do you think is going to ultimately bring home the title here? Who are your sleepers? Who are the dark horses? Who do you think can make some noise? Is there someone on here that I didn't talk about that I should have? I want to hear from you.